Hi, Katie Sapanik, 72 Chevelle, I-Stock Automatic.
Jeannie Linky, 85 Chevy Camaro. J-Stock Automatic.
Allison Smith, 98 Firebird, and A-Stock Automatic.
Amanda Wojciesko, 2002 Undercover Dragster, Super Comp.
Kelly Barbado, 1968 Chevrolet Camaro, Super S and Super Street.
Well, it's been a great day. A lot of fast runs. I think Katie was just telling us that it possibly qualifies for mine shaft conditions here. And for stock eliminator, that's really important. It means that you can run possibly more than a second under the index without hurting your weight combination.
Yeah, we still have a qualifying run tomorrow, so that's definitely not official, but based off today's runs, it looks like the mine shaft would be in effect if things stood the way they were now.
Oh, very good. So, yeah, I noticed when I looked at the qualifying sheets earlier that there was a lot of people in the danger zone and way past the danger zone.
Well, you can't count those FSXX or FSXX cars.
Anything new.
Anything with the X. Well, stock got 2 qualifying runs today, so I was happy with both my runs. Had 2 good hits on the tree. Car ran well, like everyone said. It's definitely fast here today, with the potential to be even faster as the weekend goes on, because it was a little bit wet today. We had some decent humidity, decent vapor pressure. If that dries out, even though it's supposed to get a little warmer, we could even see faster runs, I think, tomorrow and Saturday.
Awesome. Let's go to my new friend, Kelly Barbado, who we had an awesome time with last night. I'm going to tell you, Kelly, I was getting phone calls and emails today from people saying that was so cool to hear how energetic you were, cruising around the pits, grabbing people, talking to them, and just getting excited to see you there.
Well, I mean, I have a usual 9-to-5 job, and my usual life is way boring compared to being at the racetrack. So I mean, when I'm here, I'm 100%. I'm excited, and that's just me usually. Fortunately or unfortunately, and it's funny because I was talking to Amanda today in the lanes, and I was like, you guys are all saying I did good. I wonder how the internet can be a cruel place. And she goes, "No, I'm one of your best friends. I would have told you if you sucked." I was like, "Oh, okay." Like, okay, I love you too. No, I mean, if you average all 3 of my runs together, I think I'm pretty close to a 90. I went 94, and now I haven't ran Super Gas since the the Dutch Classic last year. So, I took my numbers from last year here, and I added a little bit, and I was a 94, and then I took some out trying to go for a 90. I changed lanes. It got a little loose, like that second run. I mean, especially we talked about Maple Grove last night. I mean, this track isn't as, it's still pretty good, but it's, it was a little different. So I was 92, and then the last run, a good friend of mine told me that everybody was slowing down, so I sped it up and went 85. Thanks, Katie.
Sorry about that.
No, it's funny because I was talking to somebody, and he goes, your other new friend, Keith Mayer, he said, an 85 right now would probably be a 90 tomorrow, because, the weather is, like Katie said, it could get a little warmer, so it's going to depend on how the, barometer goes and the humidity and stuff. But if it becomes a little muggy tomorrow, if there is a small chance of rain through the weekend, depending, that 85 could be pretty darn close to a 90, so I may not even really have to adjust anything. So, my hits at the tree were a little different. It's a little weird to have a 6,000 chip in it when I have 52 usually, so it's screaming on the starting line, but it was a good day. I can't complain. There was days that I ran 290s in time runs, and I think I'm ready to go, and I'm first round, dog meat. So, I can't complain.
Awesome. Now, Allie, obviously, you and your brother did a bonsai trip to Ohio to get your motor back. How did everything shake out?
It went really well. So yeah, my brother and I basically we drove to Indiana, to Galesburg, Indiana, straight out, one-shot deal. We left at 6 a.m. on Friday and we got back at 10 a.m. on Saturday. But it was worth it. We got the motor back and it's back in the car, and it was screaming today. It ran a 10:08 in the first run on break-in oil, and then a 10:07 on the second run. We're still running the break-in oil. So by tomorrow we should be back onto the regular oil, go and just run it as we're going to run in eliminations. So I'd say today was kind of a nervous day for me. You know, the first run, the motor, this new motor sounds different than the old one. It has a deeper sound. It's a real beast. A girl beast though, because she's a lady. But just sitting in the car, you know, I'm sitting there, and every little thing, I think I called my dad over 3 or 4 times, and I have to thank Heather Fetch for running to get him one time for me too. But every little thing, I'm like, is this okay? Is this okay? It's just a bit nerve-wracking being back in it after having it blow on me. But so far so good, and I'm definitely feeling more comfortable now. I'm looking forward to tomorrow and seeing what it'll do again on my third pass. And I know you guys haven't seen any videos yet.
Go ahead, sorry.
No worries. I know you haven't seen any videos yet out of Englishtown, but you got to check out my brother's wheelies. I've never seen him so scared in his life. It's hilarious.
We had a great day over in the Linky Racing camp.
But they have a fort.
Yeah, we have a fort, but my uncle is sitting out this race, unfortunately, but he'll be back out soon as his other stocker is ready. He's missing super stock very, very much. And then my dad, he ran decent today, so he's happy. You know, he was all snotty after he had a 10 light the second time shot, walked in my trailer while I was doing the weather. What was your light? You know, one of those. So, and I had a decent day as well. I think, you know, our numbers are right where I want them to be. I think that the biggest struggle a lot of people had today is the wind. We had a very strong crosswind, and it was almost at times almost a tailwind. And I've grown up at this racetrack. I work here on a weekly basis, and it is very rare that we ever have a tailwind here. So, and like Katie was saying, you know, it'll be very interesting to see what happens if the water grains drop a bit more.
Well, my day started off with Matt Sherman pulling the generator out of my motorhome and me not being able to straighten my hair. So,
Thank God for Matt, though.
that was a bit of a buzzkill. And then I came out of the box putting about 10 in it from Rockingham last weekend and went a 984 or 894. I'm going off of my dad's super yes. And then we slowed it down a bit for the second time run, and I was 93. And my lights have been all over the place because I'm not used to this staging system with the blue lights up top at a national event. When you have an amber visor, it just doesn't go over well. So the third time run,
Right.
I'm doing my burnout. Well, not doing my burnout because my air bottle wasn't on. So I'm trying to flag down my crew chief Jello, and he's not paying attention to me, so I'm like clapping my hands in my car, and no one can hear me because the motor's loud. So eventually my dad comes over and turns on the air bottle. I have a 40 light and go 90 with an 8, so that ended pretty well today.
We had a friend, it was his first national event in 15 years, and we neglected to tell him about the amber visor thing, and he just decided to stroll right through the beams. He had no clue.
So, for those at home,
He wondered what the white light was. He goes, "What's that white light there?" And they're like the tree. The other guy wasn't even staged, and they're like waving at him, like, "Back up!" He's like, "Oh my god!"
I'm not sure if everyone like listening in knows, but the blue bulbs you can't see if you're wearing any yellow glass at all. So those yellow glasses that the drivers like to wear to like help them focus better on the tree, those don't work. You will not see the blue bulbs come on.
I never, and this is probably everybody's going to want to attack me for this, I didn't go after my sponsors. I actually read an article, I think it was an article a couple years ago, about how Melanie Troxel got the In-N-Out deal just because she knew the family and she was just always very nice to them, and she would just ask them every now and then, you know, can I do something, you know, can you sponsor me, or just always keeping them in mind. And even when they said no, she stayed very nice to them, and, you know, just figured, you know, not to suck up, but just, you know, she just stayed like a nice person to them and just, you know, always kept them in mind and everything. And one day they had enough money and they said, you know, okay, we want to sponsor you. And how my Hudson Performance deal came around is he knew, you know, Steve knew my dad. He wanted somebody who traveled a lot to a lot of the races like me. And he, you know, so it's one of them, you may get a sponsor that you're not even trying to get. You just, if you can carry yourself at the racetrack to have, you know, a good attitude, and you're a, you know, you really try to do well. You may not all the time. You know, sometimes those are the sponsors that, you know, you don't even realize that you're going for a sponsor. If you can just be yourself, and that in yourself is somebody that is personable and, you know, people want to talk to. I mean, you know, if I would, you know, like last night, I mean, I'm like, Steve is probably so excited at what happened last night. If I was some jerk with no, you know, with an attitude and stuff, last night wouldn't have happened. So sometimes it's just carrying yourself, and you don't know who's seeing that, and they may come to you. I mean, sometimes you're that lucky, but no, I mean, these days it's very tough. I mean, my fiance owns his own shop, Sylphie's Automotive, and he is very careful on where he wants to put his sponsorship money, because he has it on the side of his car. He thinks about, you know, his local Trex Island, and he has a lot of customers there, and he thinks about, you know, should he sponsor, you know, the scoreboard or things like that. So I mean, it's funny to see it from both sides, you know, and how the shop owner thinks of it, and how, you know, the racer thinks of it. So it's cool to be able to see both aspects, and it is such an interesting thing sometimes how people get their sponsors.
Well, I was, I guess, 8, and I knew about junior drag racing, so I always asked my dad to get me a car, but my parents were divorced, and it just financially wasn't possible until I was about 13, and I woke up Christmas morning, and I had a junior sitting in my house. And I started racing. I got like a later start, and it was to the point where I understood how racing worked. Like, I understood how to drive the stripe, and I knew what I needed to do, rather than being 8 and kind of just getting in a car and working it out as it went along. And my home track was Englishtown here, and we raced over in the junior track over next to the big track. And I had a rough start. My dad had no idea what he was doing with the junior, so there were a lot of people that had to help us. And I guess 4 years later, when I was 15, I got 2 track championships here, and my dad said, all right, you want to stay in juniors, or do you want to move to super comp? And I said, I want to move up. I want to see what else I can do. So then I came out with my undercover dragster, and I love it.
That was a Christmas gift too, wasn't it?
Yeah.
You have the best Christmas
I'm
gift.
spoiled. I'm a second-generation racer, and being probably the most senior lady on the panel, junior dragsters were around when I was a teenager, but probably just came out maybe when I was 13 or 14 or something like that. So my parents said you could wait till you could get into a big car to race. My dad's been racing my whole life. My mom probably started racing when I was about 10. They both still race brackets. They still race in pro at New Media Dragway. My mom races in street tire also. My dad has a 1990 Camaro he races. My mom has an ultra cool 1956 Hugger Orange 2-door station wagon she's been racing. And so when I was 14, I really wanted a 69 Camaro, which my mom had sold to get her really cool wagon that she has. I was trying to talk my parents into saving it for me. They didn't. And when I was 14, my dad said, I found a Chevelle that's in pretty good shape. What do you think? And I thought, well, I probably shouldn't be choosy. I don't have too much going into this. So my dad got the Chevelle. My parents and I took it off the frame, restored it. It was just going to be a daily driver and maybe something I could run in trophy occasionally. And I raced in the high school race at New Media a couple times. Won the high school race, got to go to the bracket finals, thought it was the coolest thing ever to go represent New Media at the bracket finals, and I've been racing my Chevelle ever since, and it's my same Chevelle that I'm racing here this weekend.
Like a majority of the girls in this room, I got my start in a junior dragster. I didn't get to race very often. I was very competitive with basketball, and at the time my father and uncle were, as they always were, big-time class racers. They traveled around quite a bit, and you know, I always spent time traveling with my dad and uncle to the races from the time I was probably 4 years old. So I don't know. The way I look at it, I was around here anyway. I have a bunch of big brothers, big sisters, moms, dads. Everybody has always kind of looked out for me. Coming out of juniors, obviously I wanted a dragster, and I'm very tiny, and I remember sitting in one in the staging lanes here at Englishtown on a Sunday points day, and my father nearly had a heart attack and said no. He looked at the size of the roll cage versus me and literally said no. And of course, you know, we started shopping on the internet and we found my 85 Camaro, which I still race to this day. We call it Big Red, of course. And so I've been racing that ever since. I've had some other opportunities to race for some other people. I've hopped in the seat of the Super Stalker a couple times, which is also fun. You know, just, I don't know. I don't really have much to say on that. I'm just around. And then, you know, I did actually make a pass in a dragster that many people probably don't even realize. Jimmy Harrington, back when he used to do his school here, because I've always worked at Englishtown, my whole family was away racing and I had to be here to work. And Harrington, of course, he packed me in with pillows. Nobody really knew about it, and goes, yeah, it'll be okay, take it down the track. And for a while, Doug Linke did not know until the pictures started to surface.
It's challenging and nerve-wracking, and just thinking about it makes me cringe. I started off my day with Louis Bloom knocking on my door saying, "Are you ready?"
And she didn't have a hair straightener.
I had a hair straightener that weekend. But he actually, the day before, he sent Matt Sherman after me and Matt said to me, "Louis wants to see you in the tower." So I had no idea what was going on. I go up to the tower and Louis says, "Do you want to do the Sportsman Spotlight with me this weekend?" And I said, I was nervous, but I said sure. And so we did the interview in the morning so I could focus on racing throughout the day, and it really brought the best out in me. I think I went 4 rounds that day. I was triple O in time runs, and I don't know, it's a cool experience, but it makes you work. Well, I think the juniors, being in a dragster for 4 years, made you just go towards the dragster. So that's what put me in Super Comp. Now I kind of want to go a little faster. And today, as the stalkers were talking about how fast it was, I made my first 184-mile-an-hour pass. My car usually only goes 180, and just kind of makes me push my dad to get me a top dragster. But I think that's a ways in the making.
Santa doesn't have that much
Santa
money.
doesn't have that kind of money.
How about you, Allie?
So even though I started in juniors, it was never really a thought to go into Super Comp. I know a lot of the kids that run juniors do go into Super Comp, but with my family, it's always been about the stock and the super stock racing, and I think I would have been disowned if I went into anything but a tour car. And why the Firebird? I guess a lot of people are surprised by that because if you know my dad and my brother, they're both Mopar, Dodge, Chrysler guys, Plymouth, can't forget Plymouth. And so I have the Firebird, and yes, I do get given a hard time quite often. But it really was just a good fit. Big Jim Penta and Jimmy Penta had 2 Firebirds, and they were looking to sell one of them. And we used to race a lot with them. And at the end of, I think it was a divisional at Lebanon Valley, they were like, "Oh, why don't you just get in and give it a try," once the racing was done for the day. So I hopped in, and it was just a really good fit. I mean, after we duct taped a block of wood to the gas pedal, it was a perfect fit. And yeah, after that, I was just hooked. I'd love to do super stock too, but my Santa doesn't have that kind of money either.
You know, I started thinking about a dragster. I was a broke college student, so, and yeah, and I'm not an only child, so Santa did not have that money also at 18 years old. So I started with an IROC Camaro, an 86, and I ran that in Street Eliminator, and as I said last night, I was first round fodder for everybody. They about crashed into the staging lanes trying to get me first round. So, you know, one day, so I started to really like the door cars. I started to get more into the door cars and stuff, and my dad was always a door car guy. He bought a dragster, like nobody knows this, he bought a dragster while his new Camaro was getting built and just wasn't excited, and the car was going to get done sooner than we thought, so he's just like, I'm just going to sell this. And even then, like, I was getting to be the age, and he was just like, I don't want to put you in this, it's a hardtail, like, this is not, you know, this isn't for you. So he, I ran the IROC for a little bit, and then I kind of got a little bit more money, and I was thinking about going into stock eliminator, because then I could, you know, have like an 85 Camaro, just, you know, kind of like Jeannie, we were talking, you know, it's kind of what I always wanted.
I'm so proud.
I know. We know I'm a Camaro girl, obviously. So I started looking on racing junk, and and we looked at a lot of cars. We drove a lot of miles, and you know, I talked my dad into, like, you know, I really enjoyed the throttle step stuff. You know, I know a lot of people think that's crazy, but I got so used to his car and like learning how to dial that, and I'm his crew chief. I dial both cars, which it's nice right now that I miss that he's not I miss that he's not racing, but it's been so much easier not having to dial two cars. But I can't wait till he comes back. But you know, it's, you know, I really do enjoy the throttle stop racing. So, you know, I thought, okay, I can't run, you know, Super Comp's not an idea, and Super Street is going to be pushing it. And I talked him into Super Street, and you know, and then the car just grew from there. Like, it was a little overkill for Super Street, you know, but, you know, I stay in Super Street usually, but it's great to be able to, you know, make it go a little faster on super gas. But, you know, it's, you know, I like the Pro Tree racing. You know, one day it'd be cool to maybe get a dragster, you know, to supplement it. But, you know, a lot of people talk about moving up and changing and stuff. I'm so happy with my car. Like, I love it. Like, you know, maybe that's just not aiming high enough. I mean, if anything, I'd just buy a dragster and do both. But I love my car so much. Like, I don't see you racing, Katie. I cannot see you racing anything else, because you're racing the same thing as you were 16. I'm like, I would be like Katie. Katie doesn't race. Like, if Katie ever raced something else, I'd be like, this is so weird. Because you were in Jack's car like once, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Don told me that.
Yeah, I licensed in a dragster years ago, before Jack and I were even together, and actually raced Jack's dad's dragster at the time. We were at a Moroso 5-day race in Florida, and they decided to have an 8-mile race. So since I was licensed, it was the perfect chance to jump in. So I have one competitive pass in the dragster. It didn't turn out well. So.
Well, like I said, I've been around class racing my entire life. You know, that was the roots of stock, super stock, and I wish and I hope that that's what stock and super stock go back to. You know, I can remember my father and uncle driving halfway across the country, and they didn't even care about bracket racing. I'm not even the best bracket racer, because they just wanted me to go fast. And they continue to want me to go fast. But, you know, that was their deal. I can remember them saying that they used to pay for their entire trip to Gainesville and back just by winning class. So to be able to learn everything I can from them, to put it toward my own racing, and you know, I hope to move up. I've been offered an opportunity that I don't know that I'm ready to share, because I'm not sure that it's the right opportunity and fit for me. But it doesn't matter. I think a stock eliminator car is a great car for any beginning driver, because it's going to teach you how to tune to weather conditions. And I mean, any race car is, but there's just, you're trying to make optimal power on a smaller tire, with a strong converter, optimal parts. You can't rev them high. You know, there's so many factors that go into race cars in general, and I think that all of us have had the opportunity to learn from our parents different techniques to tuning, different things that we need to consider as drivers that could make us all potentials in anything that we ever hop into.
And for me, it's, well, Jeannie too, it's really whole family. I mean, I got my mother, dad, brother. I can't imagine going without my brother. It's just quiet. It's just not the same without him there. Or even the dog. Like when we don't have the dog, you know, she just sits there when we come back from the run. She's so excited, you know. It's like no matter how bad you do, she's there wagging her tail. It's like, oh, well, I guess it wasn't that bad. And I mean, Jeannie, you got cousins, uncles.
Yeah, I mean, it's a family thing, but Chris, the thing about what we're doing is, especially because we all travel together, and I'm a testament to it, that this whole racing community is a family. The people that came out and all of the media that have helped to share what we're doing tonight, you know, that's all examples. I spent a year where my father and mother couldn't really be around for my racing, but they trusted me to go away racing. You know, they were sitting in a hospital taking care of my grandmother. And I just remember making it to a final round, and the amount of people that stuck around to support me and make sure that I was okay because they knew what was going on, that was a real shell shocker to me. So, you know, that's something I think we can all testify to as well.
Yeah, I mean, I know the super gas, sometimes the super gassers have a good and bad kind of relationship. The super gassers can be a little cliquey. And
yeah, they're a little too close.
Yeah, they are. And it's funny because neither of us usually run. I mean, I run Super Street normally and stuff, but our dads are both super gas racers, me and Amanda, and we've been welcomed into that group. But it's a very tight-knit group, and it is like family. I mean, we have this pig roast at the .90 Association race, like mid-year, like around at Cecil. I think this year it's July. Yeah, it's July this year. And, but it's just such a, you know, it's a great day. I mean, I mentioned it a little bit last night. Like it's such like a, you know, especially that it's in honor of all of our really good friends. Uncle Buck. I mean, he was all of our uncles really. But you know, it's a great time, and it really does show that, yeah, we are all family. I mean, I see my racing family a lot more than I see my other family, my regular family, because I just, you know, this is where I am. You know, I know, like, you know, I'll miss every birthday, graduate, you know, everything in the summer pretty much just to go racing because I only get to do it 6 months of the year. So
weddings.
Yeah, weddings. Oh no, I can't be at Englishtown, but yeah, I can't. I'm like one of my best friends is getting married during the divisional, and I'm like, I love you, but again.
It happened to me a couple of years ago.
Oh really?
They made me the maid of honor.
No. Darn it! I'm in this wedding too. Oh my god.
What are we gonna do?
No, I mean, sometimes that is the case, you know, family, you know, and friends, non-racing do come first sometimes, and you gotta suck it up and just do it and stuff. And
but even one example of how it's one big family here, when my motor let go, it was about a month ago that it happened, like the first weekend in May. I've had people coming and offering crate motors to put in my car, or offering me their car to drive at this race, and it's just the amount of people that were support. Yeah. That's the word I was looking for.
Yeah.
It's amazing. I can't thank them enough. And if they're listening, I hope they know it meant so much to me just to be offered that, because there's no place I'd rather be than at the racetrack. And it's really hard to be here when you have a car, not racing. It's really hard. I love watching, but it's hard. It hurts a little bit. Especially when all your friends are in the staging lanes. They're like, oh, when you gonna be ready? I'm like, I don't know.
That's what my dad's going through right now. Where's your car? He's like, isn't that done yet? And he's an engine builder. But yeah, no, when I blew mine a couple years ago, I talked to my friend Eric. I forget if he texted me or I texted him. I said, oh, I blew it up in Cecil bad. He goes, all right, come for your spare. I'm like, what? He's like, I have this motor sitting here. It'll go run Super Street. It'll run Super Gas. You'll be fine the rest of the year. And I actually had a perfect run on that motor. So I was triple O and 90 with an O to Bob Silfies, which happens to be my fiance's business partner. So I have that framed, but I can't really, you know, I was joking about blowing it up and putting it in the shop, but I figured that was kind of mean. But I mean, just like, you know, I didn't even, a friend asked me how my race was. I told him what happened. He's just like, all right, come get your motor. No questions asked. You know, and my dad has been offered motors before. It's just, that's what it is. We all just try to help each other. Like, you know, if Amanda's having an issue, she knows she can run over. She's got my 5400 chip in her car right now.
Oh, Kelly, I hate chips.
But that, just something as little as that.
Now we know where that 184-mile-an-hour run goes.
Yes. Yeah, it's a cheater chip.
Magic chips.
I will say, my fiance's not racing this race, and I was really trying to not leave the house in shambles like yesterday. So I woke up and I just we were gonna go to breakfast, and I was like an hour just trying to make the house look like a bomb didn't go off because I had all my stuff there. Because I feel bad because I am. You know, I'm a racer and I'm a partner, you know, with somebody in life, and I'm trying not to leave him with no clothes, no food, no anything. So it is sometimes difficult, when he's not racing and stuff. Luckily, I think he's been working 95% of the time I've been gone. So, you know, he hasn't been home, but it is tough, and you know, and you want to, make sure that you don't come home to a disaster area. You don't want to, you want to be able to enjoy yourself when you come home, but you also want to try to get to the track and make sure that's all done. Because, I had to make sure the food's, there's enough food in the motorhome, and I have to make sure there's enough food in my house, and I have to make sure there's enough water everywhere, and I have to fill the water in the motorhome, I have to cook dinner, and last night I was cooking dinner at 10 o'clock at night after the interview. So just things, just trying to balance all that, and then I also have, a regular job, and I don't get, the days I wake up and I don't feel good, I can't just call off of work because I need all those vacation days to come here and go racing. So sometimes it does get tiring, especially when you're 6 weeks in a row and you haven't been home on a weekend, and you do miss those, everybody goes away for the summer and they go to the beach and they get to do all this fun stuff, and you're can't I have a race? My friends are going this weekend. I'm can't I have a race? They want me to come with them, and it's tough to have that balance, but it's sort of this is what you signed up for. I mean, if you don't like it, go, bracket racing's 2 days a week, and you get to go home, you probably sleep in your bed, every night, and, and that's great too, because, I mean, there's times, I'll go bracket racing with Don, and we'll go to media for a weekend, and it's just so easy. Island's only a half an hour away. We just go for the day, and we're home that night in our bed, and it's nice and quick and easy, so, it's variety and just a lot of time management and all that stuff.
This is Jeannie, and I can personally tell you that, racing in general is not a dying sport. I do think there's a lot of ways that it should be repositioned. Because I work for Englishtown, I see the amount of imports. Drifting is big now as well. You have to be open to the fact that drag racing in general, it can be anything you want it to be, on any level you want it to be. And there's a very young crowd of ambitious people out there. But, it also includes ticket prices that don't cost a family $100-some a day to come watch us and come support us. It includes, welcoming imports into what we're racing. Comp Eliminator right now is a herding class. And I was offered an opportunity before the NHRA Import Series died to compete in a sport front-wheel drive type-based car as the series was dying. And those cars, a lot of them are sitting right now, just sitting in garages. They have no place to race. They want to come racing. And I think, but then once again, it goes back to the expenses, the entry fees. I'm 29 years old and I'm working 5 jobs to do what I'm doing. And you can't, and I'm doing it with a lot of support, from sponsors and family. But not all young people have the opportunities that we, have. So I think that it really just needs to be repositioned, and, everybody needs to suck it up and allow other type of cars into the sport in general.
And it's also about getting the word out there, because I speak to a lot of people who don't know anything about drag racing.
That's true.
Schools, getting into high schools and automotive programs, bringing kids to the drag strip. That's what it's all about. That's how my dad got involved when he first started. He was in college and probably racing on the street, although he tries not to give a bad impression on us youngsters. But one of his teachers said, well, why don't you come to the drag strip? And he started going to the drag strip, and he fell in love with it and joined the Hemi Club. Well, there's nothing like that now. I mean...
Yeah, and you know what? As Allie's saying, that's a big part of it. And, you know, look what happened with the whole Street Outlaws deal. But you know what? That's going to drive people into even knowing that drag racing exists. So I'm all for it. Bring them on.
Yeah.
And in general, you know, we don't want 11 p.m. coverage. Maybe you need to go after other channels on television. There's a million of them on cable. And you need commercials that include consumer brands, not just oil companies and fuel companies. You need to really branch out. There's a market out there. It just, we need somebody to represent us and to build that plan.
I'm telling you, chocolate bars. I'm welcoming them as a sponsor right now. Come on, Hershey. We love you. And you're local. You're right down the street from Reading.
We have our banquet there.
Yeah, we love you.
Yeah.
Come on, Hershey. I agree. We need different sponsors, and also racing's about the people. It's not just about the cars. We're here for the cars. The cars are fantastic, but it's also about the people. I mean, everyone has a story, and those stories are fascinating. And when you start getting the stories out there, I think that's what brings people in too. I mean, it's like a good movie. We can be a reality TV show or a good movie.
Whether you're the 18-year-old kid sitting in a staging lanes with his Honda off the street, or Kent Hanley in his Super Comp dragster testing 4 lanes over, preparing for a national event, maybe walking over to that kid and saying, what do you think of what you're doing? How fast does this car run? That makes that kid feel really important, because what Kent may not realize is that kid might think, whoa, that guy's big league. And, you know, that's important. That's where racers need to also step in, not think that they're too good for others. And, you know, you have to also encourage others to get involved.
Get the word out.
Very cool.
Like I said, when I told on one of the shows when I was in Charlotte, sitting in the tower, and a lot of people in the tower suite are waiting for the pro runs. Well, Stock Eliminator was lined up because they were going to be first on the track. And this couple leaned over and was looking at these Stock Eliminator cars, and they're like, oh, what's that? Is that going to be a car show? Is there going to be a car show coming in? And I said, no, those are race cars. They're like, oh, where do they race? I'm like, oh, they'll race here. When? Now. And they were just so fascinated, you know, by our cars and what we do. And I was explaining to them how it all worked, you know, with the dialing in and, you know, cutting a light. And it's just really about spreading the word. A lot of people don't realize what we do. And then, again, like Jeannie said, making it more affordable. I don't really know the answer to that one, but I think that's a big part of it. I was sitting in the stands once at Gainesville earlier this year, and a guy a couple rows behind me was asking these guys that were sitting next to me what cone we were at the track. And he's like, is that the 660 cone? And these two guys were just looking at him like he had 5 heads. You know, it's like, what? It's like, is that the 660-foot cone? And I finally turned around, I'm like, no, that's the 330-foot cone. The 660-foot cone's further down. See how there's 2 cones next to it? That's for the mile an hour. That's the 660. And these two guys just kind of turn and look at me. I'm like, I just wave my hands. I'm like, I'm not going to explain. But yeah, it's good. Always answer questions when you're in the stands. And don't say anything if they tell you your class is boring. Just ignore them.
Smile and wave.
Smile and wave. Default answer.
It makes the really good times, like, even better. Because, like, if you don't know how sucky it can be, like, I didn't blow my first motor for, like, 10 years, I think. And now knowing that is a possibility, like, I'm not, you know, immune to that. You know, when everything performs well and everything's going well, I mean, it does make you realize, like, those really sucky days make, you know, in that winner circle, like, just so much better. And, like, that you didn't give up and you just kept working at it, you know, it makes it so much worth it.
You can ask a very shocked tech guy today that when I got out of my Firebird after the first run, I did like the Mary Poppins heel click. Because I was so happy to have made it down the track in one piece. And I didn't even know what it had run at that point. They kind of had a time slip shack catastrophe during stock first round. There were time slips everywhere. It was like it was a windy day here. This lady had like a stack of like at least 100 time slips, I'd say. I felt so bad for her.
We can't all be Angie. Angie needs to put
That's true. Angie and Echo.
Shout out.
She does great. But I mean, they had 3 people sorting through the time slips. But I was just so happy. I was like running around, and all that I did was make a qualifying pass. So it's the little things. Appreciate the little things.
Absolutely.
You know, Angie's another example, like Kelly just said. This girl, Angie, I won't go into her personal history, but she is a remarkable young woman. Remarkable. And this girl just loves being at the racetrack. She sits endlessly at the time slip booth at ACCO. And not only does she keep things in order, unlike they did here today, she takes time to write little notes on the time slips, which are normally very hilarious, but it's another idea of what we were talking about the community being a family and
a more personal relationship with the drivers and
yeah.
everyone else who helps
and
out.
it does make you feel special. You know, that time slip person, that's sometimes the first person you see even on your worst day at the track.
Oh, yeah.
And to have people that just continuously can pull you up or just make it more fun for you.
Yeah, she'll tell you when you suck, though. She's one of those best friends who'll tell you when you suck.
She's always smiling.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think I've gone through that time slip shack once where she didn't have a smile on her face.
When I won last year, I purposely moved to the right and just got out, and she just gave me like the biggest hug. And like it's because I really wanted her in the winner's circle picture. She's like, I gotta work. And now she got a promotion, and she's only like part-time time girl, like for like the divisionals for us and stuff, but like, you know, we miss her down there like on a regular weekend. We're like, I like look up to the
We're not Angie.
It's definitely not the same.
But no, it's just, and that's what I sort of mentioned it last night. I mean, we talked about being a reality show, but we're not that much drama. We're like,
unless you're in Super Gas.
Yeah. But even, I mean, the girls, we're not. We're gonna just flip on that. No, but I mean, we all root each other on. We're not like mean girls about it. Like, if Katie does great, I'm so excited. Like, when I wasn't here when she won last year, but I was streaming at home, and like it was funny because I was seeing you. Like, I think you were excited because I think the live stream was going before the sound, and I was jumping up and down in the office, and Don's looking at me like, you don't know if she won. I said, no, look, she's freaking out in the car. And then, but I mean, like, we're not like haters on the other girls. Like, oh God, Katie won and I should have won. I'm sitting at home right now. Like, I'm freaking out. And like when Amanda won last year and stuff, like I'm so excited. Like I know you run it up this year. And when you won your I didn't. I'm having that. But no, we're all like
we're one big family.
Exactly. Yeah. We cry with each other and we win with each other. Like we're just we do. We're just.
I mean, if I'm gonna so Katie and I came up against each other a couple years, and you won that race too. So we obviously know how that ended. But it was just we were so extremely friendly. Now, so my car broke when we were going in the lane, so it kind of was unfortunate. But we still did the coin toss and everything. I had gone up. I had a functioning car when I drove up. I swear, wasn't playing any games. I drove to the staging lanes. We got out, and I remember like she came over to ask me what lane I wanted, and I kind of looked and I'm like thinking, and I'm like. Oh, I don't know. It had been such a long day. I had been all over the place. And she's like, you know what? I've been in every lane. Whatever lane you want, just take it. I'm like, really? And she's like, yeah. I'm like, okay. I don't even know. And so I think we picked a lane, and that's when my car broke. I went to follow you in the lanes. But it was just super friendly. I mean, of course, she wouldn't have been so nice when we got on the starting line. But up till that point, it was just, friends going to race and have a good time.
And even the guys, I mean, the guys are even nice to us too. I mean, I've never, I don't know, you're,
some of them.
Yeah, no, I know. I guess the ones that I've had to do, like, race against and stuff, like at least they're nice to me to my face. They haven't been giving me my lane as much anymore. They used to be like, oh, just have whatever lane you want. Now they're like, unfortunately, not taking me so lightly. I guess I'll take that as a compliment, but It used to just be, oh, have whatever lane you want, do whatever you want. They figured like they were putting me on the trailer anyway, but you know. But yeah, you don't see it that much. You don't, you know, there are some bad apples, but.
I think that it's a bit late because, and honestly, in drag racing, there have always been women. I thought that the Year of the Women was, I think the NHRA promoted us the wrong way, promoted women races the wrong way. Drag racing is one of the few motorsports venues that has always had women. From Shirley Muldowney, even before that, the sportsmen who've raced stock and super stock. I mean, I think it would be a challenge to go back in time and find a year where women didn't win in a particular class or category. I mean, I'm including the sportsmen here because, I mean, I feel like we should be included. It's not just about the pros.
I think it is outdated as well, and honestly, I almost get sick of the topic of, oh, females in drag racing. I mean, maybe it's just because I'm a tomboy, but, you know, I consider myself one of the guys. But, you know, I kind of get sick of that topic, and I think that sometimes people do portray it the wrong way.
Katie, what do you think?
I would agree. I'm not a big, you know, I think in what we do, especially with these sportsman cars, I don't think there's any reason a man or a woman should be more or less competitive. I think it's equal playing ground, so I don't really think the woman thing is a big story. I mean, that being said, I think we all go to races. We were just at the Norwalk Divisional, which is a divisional race, which typically our divisional races don't get a huge crowd. Out at Norwalk, they get a really big crowd. It's almost like a national event. But there's no pros there, so there's a lot of people walking around the pits, talking to the sportsmen, and out at Norwalk, you do get a lot of people still that are a little surprised, like, oh, really, you drive this car, or that kind of thing, which I think is great for the sport. Like we're talking about, is the sport dying? I mean, I think that's the only way to effectively market it. I don't think there's any reason a man or a woman should be more or less competitive. But I think it's good to market that we're a family sport, and we fit into a lot of different ways. And I think there should be junior dragsters. I'm not saying like a competitive class. I think they should be at every national so that people in the stands could see that it's a possibility. And I think that that's the only time I think it's good to draw the light on women is that maybe so the people in the stands at this national, if the announcers let them know that you can go to your local track and you know you could a husband could race, a wife could race, the kids could race the juniors. It really could be a family sport and something everybody could do together in a great family atmosphere. I think that's a really great thing. But yeah, as far as just the women versus men thing, I'm not too big on that.
Katie.
Katie, you're here.
We don't want to be Katie.
We do.
Because Katie's on the national event.
Yeah, exactly. Katie's our role model this weekend. We're just gonna follow her everywhere she goes. If she like bends down to tie a shoe, we're gonna untie her shoe and bend down to tie our shoe.
And then tie it for her.
Yeah.
She's the queen bee, or what was it in Mean Girls?
Yeah.
Yeah, she's like Gina George.
We're not comparing ourselves to Mean Girls.
Yes,
no.
We just will follow her around, yeah. She's headed she's leading us. No, I mean, we're all going to say our fathers and our moms that we're, you know, we're all going to say that, but if you take out, you know, blood relation, I mean, yeah, I would say Katie. I've always looked up to her, you know. Because, she's won a national event. She's a Jegs All-Star. She's done it all, yeah.
When I first started, I think I've mentioned this on the show before, but when I first started racing, I had a terrible first year. I'm sure no one even remembers it, which is probably for the best, but pretty much if you saw me in the third round, that's as far as you were going to see me. First round or third round, that's about as far as I got. And Anthony Fetch gave me some really great advice, so I've always looked up to him. He's been a huge role model. And even when I'm having hard times still, he always has inspirational words, and so I've always looked up to him, as well as my family, of course, and Katie. I do love you as well. But When I was at Indy a couple years ago, I was walking through the pro pits, and that's before we got our bright yellow shirts, just to put this in context. So I wasn't sticking out by any means. And so I was walking through, and one of the crew on Robert Height's team saw me, and he said, "You're Allison Smith." And I said, "I am." "I don't know you." And he said, "Oh, we follow Stock Eliminator. You just ran," and he listed out my 3 runs that I had made up to that point. He knew exactly what I had run. He knew what my brother had run, and they just loved Stock. He called over to the guys because they weren't doing much at the time. I don't know. I think they'd put the car away for the night, and so they came over too, and they're like, "Do you know who this is?" And they're all quizzing each other, but it was just so cool. It was probably the coolest thing I've ever seen. So some of the pro teams do actually watch sportsman racing, aren't quite involved.
I think that once again goes back to where drag racing used to be, where based on where it is now. I notice a lot of the older generation, they have a bit more respect for the sportsman racing because of how sportsman racing used to be and how it was publicized. I mean, I've spent some time in the nostalgia circuits, and you know, I've had people that same deal, walk up to me and say, "Oh, you're Jeannie Linke," and then, you know, I find out that guy's driving a blown alcohol funny car down the track, and I'm like, he's my hero. But I wouldn't even know that. But, you know, I think that the more seasoned racers, they have a different respect for the younger generation of sportsman racing in general because they built a legacy. And that's part of the reasons for the concerns about where the future of the sport is headed.
That is a tough question to answer.
I don't know that it's capable in one day.
One day,
I think you could come up with a plan in one day.
I mean, I think...
Go with that parallel universe thing.
I mean, and I'm by no means a marketing expert, and Jeannie's next to me, so I mean, she would have a much better idea of this. But some things I just think could be marketed better in our sport. Like I was saying before, I think we should play more to our strengths, let people know what's available and how they can get involved. I mean, it seems to me like ticket prices could be a little bit high for a national. I mean, of course, you know, I'm not intimately involved to know what the situation is there, you know, how much needs to be made to cover all the expenses and everything. But sometimes when you don't see as many people in the stands as you used to when you're watching the ESPN coverage, you think to yourself, boy, you wonder if they knock $10 off a ticket price and put more people in the stands, if that couldn't be a better thing. But I don't know. That's a hard question to answer. To change something in a day, to change anything in a day, I think would be difficult.
And to go off what she just said about knocking down the fee, no joke, last Friday night here at Englishtown, we had what we call Ratchet Friday. It's a young scene, a lot of import cars, but also a lot of, it's a street scene. Kids that just want to come in and make some time shots down the track. They only get 2 runs. Well, it's a very, very cheap tech card. I think they let ladies in free. I guarantee tomorrow night there will be less people in the bleachers to watch the pros than there were last week. Packed. We sold almost 500 tech cards, and when I looked out at the entire pit side bleachers, all night long, packed. People just sitting, hanging out. But you know what the other thing is? They have music. They have some vendors. They make it what drag racing used to be. It was a place to hang out on a Friday night. You know, it's more than just sitting in the bleachers or getting autographs.
Plus, each of those 500 tech cards came with a family.
Exactly.
Or friends, you know. It was
and a hungry person.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I mean, going back to too, we were at the Norwalk Divisional a couple weeks ago, and sometimes you think things are broke, and then you go there to a divisional race, and they have 30,000 people there, and you know, there's an exhibition show at night. There's fireworks. There's food vendors.
$1 ice cream.
You know, there's other vendors. There's a little flea market. So, and then sometimes, so to go back to the question, what could you fix in a day? I might have Bill Bader train some of the other people around on kind of what he's doing, you know. And you feel like if he can do it there, why can't, maybe everybody can't do it, but you think more people should be able to accomplish what he's accomplishing.
And you know, then I feel like NHRA's biggest argument back is, well, we offer free spectator tickets at divisionals and nobody still shows up. Well, utilize the free social networking, because I have news for you, that Ratchet Friday, they don't do much publicizing other than through internet. All the kids share, hey, that's going on at Englishtown and we could go there for basically free. Why not? And it's using those outlets because that's where the younger generation is. So it's making it affordable, and it's using other outlets than printing up some flyers and hanging them down the road and hoping people read them, because I don't have time to read them.
I think it's also a uniqueness thing, because so the NHRA show, it travels around the country week to week, but it's pretty much the same show every week, especially now that the cars don't blow up as often. And I mean, I'm happy, in a sense I'm happy the drivers are safer, but I mean, you know, people watching, you go to have a spectacular show. And I think if the show was slightly different week to week, you'd get more viewers, you'd get more spectators. Like if I came to Englishtown knowing there was going to be something unique to Englishtown, I have to go to Englishtown to see this because I can't see it anywhere else. I can't wait a week and see it in Epping. I have to see it in Englishtown. Then they're going to go to Englishtown.
Right.
Whereas, you know, same for Epping. Oh, I was just at Englishtown last week, but I have to go to Epping because they're going to have
Wheel standers.
And you know
insert
what?
blank here.
Allie's right, and to touch on that, I'm sure a lot of the older generation can attest to, it used to be really cool that professional drivers weren't limited as to where they could go have match races. Well, I have news for you. People don't know who these professional drivers are if they don't follow NHRA drag racing, and they're going to come to a race if they were at their local track and they saw or they heard there's going to be a big match race. All that stuff needs to come back. You can't tell a driver that they own a multi-million-dollar operation and the rules are the rules, you can only race on our turf. You can't do that.
Yeah. And it's,
Very true.
so like Jeannie was talking the event that was here last Friday, and I think another reason that it was so big is because it only happened once.
No,
Or did
we do
happen
it.
again?
We do it at least twice a month.
Okay.
So I can attest to the fact that if you use some of these free social networking sites that are out there, and you have somebody that's dedicated to taking the photos and making the first couple events a big deal, and then making it affordable, I mean, I know what it's like. I have news for you. If I have to pay, I'm one of the cheapest people you'll meet. So, but I'm just saying in general that people need to hear, I've grown up watching it, I've worked at Englishtown for a long time. These people are out there, and we need better people trying to market us and using, like, we don't need old school marketing, we need new school marketing.
Absolutely.
Keep it fun. And,
Absolutely.
you know, put emphasis on the family. Make it unique. It's all those things into one.
I'm saying in general, we need marketing people who are getting paid for that to come up with those ideas, and then when they're coming to an event, they should be reaching out. They should be looking at what's available in the area and how can they find some other outreach. People who wouldn't even normally know that drag racing exists 5 minutes down the road. That's their job, and that's what we need them to start focusing on.
I haven't seen them. They used to bring like the local mechanic schools to like Maple Grove. I mean, I haven't seen that in a long time.
They used to do that here too.
Yeah.
Even so, Englishtown used to be our closest national event. I'm from Massachusetts, for those who don't know. So Englishtown used to be our closest national event for many years. We only got Epping a couple. This is going to be the 3rd year at Epping. So they used to even come from our area. I mean, that's a 4.5-hour drive.
Yeah. And I don't know what stopped it, but I mean, it was
The teachers.
It was it, yeah.
Well, when you think the teachers don't know about it anymore, as the
That's
teachers
true,
turn
yeah.
over,
Mhm.
if they're not interested in, or involved in racing,
Yeah.
you lose it, and you know you don't have people there to keep it going.
And the tickets can't cost $50 a head.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering if it had to do with, you know, pricing, you
I
know,
know,
like
like,
a group pricing.
The schools get lower prices, but it
Yeah.
can't. you know, these
But
schools
yeah,
are all on
there's-
tight budgets.
Oh, absolutely.
There's no spectators here today. It would be a great day to bring in some schools for
Right.
maybe next
Yeah.
to nothing and open some concessions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I mean, it's unfortunate here because we can't race very late into the evening. But, you know, even if we had to start at 12 at a track so that we could race later in the day so that when people come in after work, they can see us running. I'm upset that they did away with the night nitro sessions. I mean,
Yeah.
that was my favorite thing
Me
to
too.
watch. Those flames, the header, oh,
Yeah.
it's gone.
I mean, Chris, you know, I rode around Manufacturers Midway today. If I would have needed a part, I would say,
Oh, yeah.
I would say 80% of those trailers weren't open.
We were
They're
trying-
not even there for.
Really?
They weren't open today.
MSD was, and I know that. Because I had to go check on a chip, so that was it. I do know MSD is open,
But
I
they're
had to check.
required
I was,
to.
yeah, I was praying. I'm like, oh God, please be open, please be open.
We had to hunt for an oil filter
Oh,
because,
wow.
like I said, we were
Yeah.
running in on break-in oil, and we of course have to change the oil for tomorrow morning. Stock out first, woo! But so yeah, we did a huge hunt for an oil filter
Wow.
today, and none of the manufacturer
Crazy, crazy.
so if you've ever been to a national event, you know, like you have Mopar and different oil companies. Everyone's set up on the Midway. All of them are closed. They only care about the people coming in tomorrow. It'd be fun to go play on some of that stuff. I mean, today's our kind of
Fun
late,
day.
yeah, our fun day. Tomorrow, when we go into racing, you know, into competition, we don't have as much free time. We can't just say, "Oh, look, the Mopar booth has a NASCAR wheel change thing. Maybe I'll go do that." You're really not thinking that way. You're thinking, "Oh, I should get back to the trailer and check the tires. I gotta make sure the car has fuel." So yeah, all that stuff's closed up today. It's kind of sad. It used to be that you could get closer to the drag racing cars than any other motorsports, you know, because, I mean, like they advertise it, every ticket is a pit pass, so you can go right in, but I find that the professional drivers aren't out as much as they used to be, at least when I was a kid.
Yeah, I agree.
And also when we were younger, they'd actually be working on their cars, you know, you
Yeah.
see them in there.
I
And,
think that's why a lot of us like Tim Wilkerson.
yeah.
He is like down and dirty in that funny car and stuff. So when he wins, you feel like it's like one of us, kind of,
Yeah,
you know.
he earned it.
Yeah.
It's like it's a good win.
Like I
Right.
joked about street cred yesterday. Like you got like some of the racers, like like Warren Johnson. I think has we all have a tremendous respect for him, and like Larry Morgan's driving Wendy Caliendo Stocker this weekend. Like I saw him in tech, and I was just, we were just laughing at him. It's like like, are you lost or something? Like just that, like that he is like just so into racing, and he'll drive. Anything, and and a lot of the pro stock guys. I mean, not all of them, but a lot of them work on their cars. More of them probably than the nitro cars. But yeah, nowadays you're not seeing anybody.
In
working
general,
feverishly.
I feel like if NHRA is trying to commercialize the sport, they're only going to have 8 funny cars. They're only going to have 8 pro stock cars. And you know what? I that's the way I feel like they're trying to take it. So then you know what? Take that and let it go, and let somebody else come in and build something that everybody else can do.
And people also love rivalries, and I feel like they try to squash them all before they start. Like one of the ones I remember most growing up. I mean, my brother's hero was always John Force. He loved John Force. We were all about he had every John Force hat. Never took them off. So I remember when Tolliver first started racing, the John Force Tolliver, whole rivalry. Oh man, we hated Tolliver. It was like, oh yeah, and I would always get into it because my brother was like so excited about it. I just like watching. I cheered for anyone, but he was like, oh. So when he was getting so upset with Tolliver, and I'm like, oh yeah, he's terrible. But that was good. You wanted to watch. You wanted to see, oh, is John gonna win? Is the superhero gonna prevail? And now you just don't have that as much. Oh, we're all friends.
Yeah. Well, Johnson versus the Dodge Boys, that was like a big rivalry back in the day.
Exactly.
And yeah, like they, that was, in the 70s, you had Snake and Mongoose. I mean, they made a movie out of it, just things like that. Shirley and Garlitz, Shirley and Connie, Shirley and a lot of people actually. but I mean, But it's like a friendly rivalry. Like, you don't want them to be like maliciously like, you know, hitting each other, like, you know, battling each other. You like the smack talk. I mean, I got a guy in Super Street, Keith Mayer. We smack talk constantly. But, you know, but we just laugh and stuff. But it's a cool, like, you want to call it a rivalry. It's like, you really get up for that. You know, you really want to beat them, and you know, you go back and forth and stuff, you know, and it's a cool, it's a cool
Keith,
rivalry.
if you're listening, Kelly's starting to clench her fist and she's starting to get really mad.
No, but no, it's just stuff like that. You're right, like just like the healthy rivalries. You don't want them like, you know.
Healthy competition.
Exactly.
Bring out the best in each other.
It does definitely bring out the best. Yeah, it's definitely made me a better racer. Having to, you know, if I want to win, you're gonna have to. You just got to keep being better than the competitors, and if the competitors keep getting better, then you got to keep getting better. So.
And trust me, everyone is definitely getting better.
Oh, yeah.
I think, you know, even stock has definitely gotten harder over the years. So I went to the SEMA breakfast this year, which is the NHRA breakfast at the SEMA show. It was fantastic. If anyone has a chance to watch that, but they had Gary Selsey, John Force, Tony Schumacher, and Antron Brown, and they were telling, well, John and Gary were telling stories about old-time funny car races, and there's a lot of them like that. Very funny. When Whit Bazemore was driving, and all the nasty racers and like the fist fights that happened. I don't know. They had me in tears. I was crying so hard, trying not to fall off my seat, because it was a pretty professional environment. But we need more of that. Just fun times.
Well, this is Katie. Jack and I right now are in the middle of, we have 4 races in 5 weeks, and let's see, we have 2 divisionals in, so we probably have, we have 3 divisionals in, so we probably have 5 more left, and we probably have, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 more nationals also. This is our first national this year. So we have a pretty busy schedule coming up. Would love to do Indy, don't know if it's in the cards or not. We'll see if it happens, and hopefully throw in a bracket race or 2 with my parents in between. Dutch Classic to close out the year, and before you know it, that'll be here, and this will all be behind us. But we have a busy summer coming up for sure.
And this is Jeannie. I'm on the same boat with the chasing the Division I schedule. I'm trying to align adding a couple more national events toward the end of the year to my schedule. It's just a little difficult with my work schedule. You know, like I would have loved to have been going to Epping, but, you know, to say to work, I'm going to take off Thursday and Friday this week, Thursday and Friday next week, it's pushing it. So, but same old schedule, and hope to do well.
Cool. So this is Allie, and my schedule, so I'm kind of behind the ball with everyone else since I missed the first divisional and the first open, and so I really don't have any points, so to speak. So we're just, you know, it's going to be whatever I pull out of the hat for the rest of the year. So we're definitely going to Epping, and then we're going to be at the Lebanon Valley Divisional. And I also convinced my dad to go to Norwalk for the national event there somehow. Actually, I said, oh, I think I'm going to go to Norwalk just to watch. He's like, oh, want to bring your car? I'm like, yeah. I tried the other approach where I'm like, hey, want to go to Norwalk? He's like, no. So this new approach is really working well. I hope he's not listening. I don't want him to catch on. And then in July, July and August are kind of quieter. There's a couple divisionals, and then things kind of heat up again towards the end of the year, where we have the Maple Grove National and such. I'd love to go to Indy, but after the Firebird, the LT1 got hit at Charlotte earlier this year, our horsepower got hit. I know the car is not going to qualify at Indy. If I get another car to drive, then I'll probably go. I'm still going to go to watch. My brother still plans to go out there, so I'll definitely be there, but I don't know if I'll be driving yet. That's yet to be seen. Indy is a very heart-wrenching race for me. It's a love-hate thing. I always wanted to go to Indy. It's a very important race for stock, super stock, and pretty much all racers, I think, dream of going to Indy and competing. And the last 2 years going there have been just completely heartbreaking experience, but I will persevere. I'm going to go back someday and hopefully do better.
This is Amanda. I am a college student, so it's very hard to pack Rob's races, the Mid-Atlantic Super Comp Association, the division races, the national events, the national opens, all into one summer. So I do not have any breaks except for Father's Day weekend. I'll be hitting Epping after this, and then we have Father's Day weekend off, and then Lebanon Valley, and followed by Rob's races, and we're heading to Norwalk, and Indy's not in the cards for me this year. I would love to go to Indy and compete with my dad, but you might see him in 2 cars. I'm sure he'll be taking over my relentless dragster and doing his best to double up. So I'm all for him, and I would love to go down there after school on Friday and crew, and we'll see if I can get a flight down there. You might see me in Top Dragster a little bit towards the end of the year. That's in the cards, hopefully. And
now that she has Kelly's chip.
Yeah, Kelly's chip.
And Santa's coming early this year.
Yeah. Christmas will be good in July. But that's pretty much it for me.
Yeah, Christmas party at Amanda's house.
Yeah.
This is Kelly. So yeah, I have probably the next month off, but we're gonna get my dad's motor back in the car. It's almost ready, so we're off next week on vacation, and then we're gonna probably spend a week putting it in, like a weekend putting it in, and then the next weekend hopefully go test it at Cecil County. They got a great test day. Like, you can go down on a Saturday for like $35 and make like, you can make 10 runs if you wanted to. I mean, we'll make like, 4 or 5 and just call it a day. And then 4th of July probably off, and then we'll go to Rob's race with like I said, I'm in the top 8 race, and it'll be a double race weekend with the pig roast and everything. And I guess we got ACCO like 2 weeks later for another circuit race. Then we have ACCO divisional the next week. I love ACCO. I do probably the best there. There was a Barbados streak going that like me or my dad was in the finals like for like a good couple races in a row. Like it was fun to go to ACCO, and we have our little home away from home down at the top end in the gravel with all the broken glass. But it was a lucky spot for us. And then then we have Cecil a couple more times, circuit race and the divisional, and then I will not be attending Indy. I will be at the Rob Keister timeshare in Ocean City, Maryland, and if Amanda can't get a plane ticket out,
I'll be in Ocean City.
She'll be in Ocean City with us.
Hey Rob, thanks for the invite.
He waited too long. I swear it's going to be some shack with sleeping bags. See, that's how dedicated he is to the .90 Association. We couldn't get a timeshare until like April or something, and we were very limited on what we could get. So then I think we heat back up again. Unfortunately, I'm going to miss Englishtown, but it's a good friend's wedding, so I'm okay with that. And then probably the Wildwood Car Show. That's a pretty good one. And then the Keystones, which is one of my favorites. I love the Keystones. I've been to every one since probably 1990. I just love that race so much. It's my home track in Maple Grove. And then, Dutch Classic, and then it's going to be really depressing for 6 months.
We won't post any pictures from Englishtown. We don't want to. Trust me.
I know, I'm going to be dying.
When the pictures start to come up, that's when it starts to hurt.
Yeah, oh man.
It's like, I can handle this.
Yeah.
I gotta thank JC Beatty at ATI Performance Products, Sun Chaser Chassis, Hoosier Tire, Delhaven Service Center. I'm sure I'm forgetting someone. My dad. My dad is my biggest sponsor. Or Santa Claus, as I usually call him.
Right. All right, Jeannie.
ATI, Mickey Thompson, CamaroGuys.com, which is part of S&W. Thank you to them. VP Racing Fuels, who just recently picked me up, and Diane Kubicki of Kubicki Photography, as well as my family, all of my friends, everybody that makes it possible for me to be doing what I'm doing. Oh, and Brian Tilburg and the Sapanic.
This is Katie.
Let's see, Alex.
No, go ahead, Katie. Go, Katie, quick.
No, we're going with Katie.
Oh
me. Sorry.
Go ahead.
So this is Katie. I just have to thank my husband Jack, my parents, my mother-in-law Gail, and of course Savannah Transmissions, Bob Bauer's Dyno Room, VP Racing Fuels, Hoosier Tire, Clevite, and East Coast Auto Electric.
Ellie.
Okay, so I of course have to thank my family. They do so much for me. Poetry Timing Systems for giving us the advertising budget. BES Racing Engines for the quick turnaround of my motor. American Racing Headers, lovely. If you want to make more power, you got to go see those guys. Ardex for all the cleaning supplies. Excel DFI for the fuel injection system, and the list goes on.
Kelly, wrap it up.
All right, this is Kelly. I'd like to thank my parents. I'd like to thank Don, my fiance, who is very understanding that I get to go racing all the time. You know, he gets to sit back and work, which brings me to Sylphie's Automotive because, you know, he owns that place. And, you know, Hudson Performance, Steve Giordano is the best. Local speed shop, support your local speed shop. Mid-Atlantic Super Street Association, ET Transmissions, King's Race Cars, Black Arrow Motorsports. Thank you, Brett. Thank you, Jake. I think that's everybody.
Thank you, and thank you to all of the media that also supported.
Videos for hanging out with us.
Yeah!
Hey, thanks, guys.
I want to thank BBRD Motorsports, Jerry Holcomb, who we got to talk a little bit last night. Ladies, we got to wrap. Thank you so much for your time. This was awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That was great. Good job,
Is
ladies.
it dinner time yet? Because I could have gone.